Media in the Making, a podcast where we look at the evolution of media from 1600 all the way to present day. In this podcast series, we ask, how have different forms of media evolved and changed cultures? Media in the Making, where media and culture are always changing. Now let's take a step back in time. Have you ever heard something on the news that you didn't believe was possible? Well, that's exactly how the Northerners felt when they saw the horrors that were taking place in the South. Today, me and my peer Hannah Green will be discussing how the advances of media affected the civil rights movement. In the early 1950s, nationwide television became an option for not just the rich, but the middle and lower class. From this, the media was now able to influence people of all social standings, as well as give information to all of those people. How do you believe this affected the noticeability of the civil rights movement within America?
Well, I think just with being able, putting media to the middle and lower classes too, that just opened it up for so much more people to be able to see what was happening with the civil rights movement, and media made that happen.
Yeah, I really agree with that. So, moving on, how do you feel that if nationwide television was not available to the common people, do you think that the civil rights movement would have gained as much velocity?
No, because if, again, the middle and lower classes would not have gotten the media, then that is a lot of people that would not have seen what was happening with the civil rights movement, and so it wouldn't have been as known and worldwide.
It wouldn't have been able to influence people that weren't of upper class. Yes. Okay, so when the civil rights movement started, the networking systems didn't want to air it, but it got so big that they weren't able to ignore it. Do you think that if something like the civil rights movement happened in present day, the media would try and put it down as well?
No, because we do have, the Black Lives Matter movement. It is something similar to the civil rights movement, and that was definitely all over all media, and it was not put down. So I do not think that it would be put down if civil rights movement happened in this day.
Yeah. Do you think that media played a very important role within the civil rights movement?
Yes, because the civil rights movement, the word got out about the civil rights movement through media. And so if they didn't have the media, then it might not have been as big and people could have put it down.
Yeah. From some articles I read, it was said that the civil rights movement was the beginning of media becoming an education form to Americans. Do you believe that this is true?
I do. I believe that with the civil rights movement, the media educated them with the civil rights movement, and people saw that, and so they were let's use media for other education purposes and getting the word out there about other things.
Yeah. Do you think that media has a good or bad influence on movements in America, such as elections or civil movements or just other things that happen within America?
I think that it depends. It can have a really good or a really bad influence, and we'll take politics for an example. So a lot of politicians do use media to get their name out there.
For campaigns and such,
for campaigning. But also, one person nowadays can put something on the media, and it can spread really fast, and it could be false.
There was no way to spread ideas throughout our country. There would be no change and no way to spread new concepts. Therefore, there would be no change within our nation. The civil rights movement is a perfect example of this because it shows that if there was no way to show what was going on within our country at this time, there would be no social movements happening. Well, thank you, Hannah, for your previous input and perspective. I really appreciate it. That is all for today. Thank you. Media in the Making is brought to you by WJHS 91.5, The Eagle, Tech Academy Media Classes. Media in the Making, teaching you about the evolution of media throughout history and its effects on culture. For more from the students, more podcasting series are on the 91.5 website, WJHS91.5.org. Thank you for joining us.